All right, welcome to the Sae Bae cast number 223 with Smithy. Smithy, how are we doing today?
Hello, hello. Yeah, not too bad, mate. Yourself? You doing okay?
Yeah, doing absolutely great. Good to have you on. We'll just start off right off the bat with a initial bio of who you are as a creator and maybe as a player. So let's hear it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so primarily these days, just make YouTube videos. I've dabbled in streaming over the years. Also dabbled in other games over the years as well. I've been making videos on YouTube for. I checked back the other day, and my first video was about 14 years ago.
Oh,
Um,
geez.
I had another channel before, but I've been doing old school for about 6 years, coming up seven this year. Primarily YouTube, dabble in TikTok. I don't really understand how TikTok works, but I put stuff on there as well. But my content is, for the most part, Ironman, whether that be in my progression series or guides or anything in between. And also when leagues comes around, I do kind of a progression style series on that as well. But yeah, that's pretty much me. Short and sweet, Ironman stuff. Struggling through the game, one episode at a time.
Nice. It's just the basics, you know. I like that. I like just the guides and the series and everything else you're doing. You said you've been doing exclusively OSRS for several years now. You said like six. Is that right?
Yeah, pretty much exclusively. I dabble in a couple of other games on my second channel. Like I might start a let's play and then never finish it because I'm really bad at finishing games these days. But yeah, old school is my main game. It's pretty much all I play. Um, Dabbled in Warzone when that was lockdown times with IRL mates and that. But yeah, old school is the game.
Nice. Okay, so I want to ask because I'm also an Ironman, and
Mhm.
obviously I'm a lover of it. Everybody knows that. So, have you ever played a different account style, or have you just always been Ironman? And what are the differences if
Yeah,
you have touched on other game modes?
yeah. I mean, I've tried all the game modes. So I started off. I used to play back in the day, as we all did. Well, a lot of us did. I know some people have jumped in now. Old school's a thing, but back in the day, would just have a. I just had like a normal account because Iron Man didn't exist. We're talking like 2005 to maybe like 2006, maybe 2004 as well. Then didn't play for ages. Came back to the game because me and a few mates from back in school days were like, "Hey, remember that game RuneScape? Yeah, they made a new version of it. Should we try it?" And we were kind of sodding about and giving it a try. And my friends I was playing with, they dropped off, but I kept going. And I'd made an Iron Man. Played that for a couple of months and was like, "This is really fun," but I'm now starting a job. Played it for a little bit. I was like, "Am I going to have enough time for Iron Man mode?" DIM that. Played it for a little bit, um, and then made my main Iron Man that I've got now. So yeah, normal life didn't last long for me. I find kind of normal accounts a bit overwhelming, where you've got literally anything you want that you can buy on the GE. Especially, I mean, I don't want to say it's mid game. It's a pretty it is not a good account. So it's like I could do anything I want, but that's overwhelming. Let's try starting a fresh Iron Man, and that's when I started my progression series. That was a hardcore. Um,
How
yeah,
did it
Darrock.
die? I need to hear.
Uh,
Oh God.
Darrock. Yeah,
It
I think
wasn't
it was back to back.
it wasn't the
Max
Darroch
hits.
glitch though. There was some like glitch that was happening a little bit ago. I don't know if you
There was
saw.
a glitch going on in my brain. I don't know about in game.
You can always blame it on the it was bugged, oh, it was lagged,
Yeah,
you know.
I could, but no hand. I got my hands up. No, it was me being stupid.
Oh no.
Um, yeah, like when I came back, like I'd never been a member before. Like when I was a kid, it was a classic. Not allowed to be a member because you got to pay money on the internet. Which
Mm-hmm.
back then, yeah, the only thing that I used to do back then was a Habbo, where you could do it on your phone.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Didn't have to, no credit cards, no debit cards, nothing like that. Just off your phone, waste all your credit. But yeah, when I came back to the game, what, nearly 7 years ago, first time ever being a member, so everything was brand new. Everything was, oh, what's this? Um, was attempting prayer flicking.
Mm,
Attempting is the main word there. Panicked, died. and now I'm dead Smithy is my main Ironman. But I have tried UIM. I have done the old Tile Man stuff as well. I've had a couple of group Ironmans as well. But yeah, they've always been kind of a little phase, and then back on the main iron. So yeah, iron is pretty much what I do.
So let me get that name once again. So your main iron is Dead Smithy?
So DD Smithy,
Okay.
DD Space Smithy is
Let's
is
look
my
him
main
up.
RSM.
Okay. You
The
got
reason why it's
pretty
DED
beastie.
is because
Yeah.
search terms on YouTube, the word dead, I was like, that might not be good for search terms because
I see.
is it one of the blacklisted words that YouTube are like, oh, you can't have that in a title?
Oh, that's true. That content
There's
creator
method
brain
behind the
going off.
madness.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. I can spell is what I'm getting at.
Okay. Got it. So pretty beastly account. Are you I haven't obviously I was just have briefly taken a look at your content, so I'm not exactly sure what the goals are. Are you planning on maxing? You're getting closer.
Yeah, so the way I kind of structure my goals these days is the whole bingo format. So I've got a bingo board that I'm doing sort of like set at the start of the year that's got a whole variety of different goals on that being PVM, skilling. This year my kind of skilling goal is to get base 90s. And I normally do at least 499s. I've already done 2 this year, which is crafting and defense. So I've got those ticked off. But yeah, main goal ultimately max. I've got a few horrible levels on there still. You can probably see that agility and runecraft
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
are both 84. Yeah, and because my Iron Man's normally skint, construction's 84 as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, ultimately, I'd love to max. I'm thinking probably next year is the year of the max for this account. At least that's what I'm thinking at the moment. But a whole
very
collection
nice.
log as well. It's nice to see things being checked off, especially if it's like just some noddy item like mystic boots or something like that.
So tell me a little bit more about the bingo thing. Is this something you're always doing, or is this kind of like a seasonal thing that you do, or is like the whole series based on some sort of bingo?
So middle of last year, so I run a lot of like bingo events for my community and that and clan and everything like that. So I've done quite a lot of events, not necessarily like in a traditional sense of a bingo board for that, but since sort of mid last year, I was like, all right, I keep making these spreadsheets of a load of list of stuff that I want to do. I look at it for maybe a couple of weeks and I completely forget it exists. And with the whole bingo thing, it's something that everyone who not everyone, but a lot of people know is like a nice format for an event of ticking off, getting items, getting XP tasks, everything like that. Let's take that. Let's take the goals that I want to achieve, put it into a bingo board format because it looks nice and pretty, and you can check things off, and you get some added dopamine if you get a drop. He's like, oh, that's now a tile done. So this year, it's a 5x5 tile board, so kind of a standard bingo board that has a variety of like skilling based ones. So like I said, getting base 90s, I've kind of broken that down into a couple of tiles. And then I can send you it if you want it for reference. You can have a look at it on
Let's
your
see it.
side.
I actually had
There you go.
your shoots and ladders thing pulled up on the side as well, but I want to see the actual bingo board. Here we go.
So that's my current one as well. That's as of the 16th of Feb. That's the last time I updated it. So there's a fair few things on there, especially things like around learning new things. Because like I said, a lot of stuff in the game I'm learning as I go. But you got a few new things on there, a few old things on there. New things being like Desert Treasure 2 rings. That's a fun one that I've been working on. Got Spoon Divertus top, which been a nice upgrade to my mage setup. But then you've got things on there like the combat achievements, which I'm getting pretty close to Jadhelm now, which is quite cool.
Very nice.
But I know that the benchmark for that keeps changing whenever they do a nice update with a new boss.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, huh? I'm definitely very outspoken about that, but we don't need to get into how I feel about CAs. But for the vast
Number
majority
doesn't
of
go down.
yeah. For the vast majority of people, it seems to be fine, I guess. It's probably the cleanest system they have, but yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense, right? It makes sense.
So, this is interesting because I feel like in today's game, it's everything is pretty intimidating, like PVM. So
Yes, yeah.
the way I see it is like I started old school, 2015. The hardest thing was Zulrah. I mean, seriously, that was the hardest piece of content in the game, and pretty much the only real challenging stuff. I mean, I guess there was God Wars, but most people would go in there with 5 people or something.
Yeah, exactly.
If you were
Exactly.
an Iron Man, that was honestly like some of the most challenging stuff you could possibly do is soloing like God Wars. But you had the Mr. Mammal guides out with the attack twice, walk under, maybe get 1 or 2 kills a trip, and that was just kind of what it was until people started like just pushing the boundaries further and further. But the thing is, the game entirely was just so much more simplistic, and you had Slayer bosses like Serb and Sire. Those were probably the most complex. Then you had DKs and Barrows and KQ and KBD, and just everything was so simple. And I imagine jumping into the game now in 2025 and I'm not claiming you're a new player, obviously you've been playing for a couple decades now, but for the average player that hasn't spent tens of thousands of hours or even just a handful of thousands of hours, it's like, dude, this game is intense now. Like, it's actually intense.
Yeah,
And the fact that
it's mad.
Inferno's been out for almost 8 years now, that is wild.
Which is crazy to
me.
think about.
I know.
I remember seeing like adverts for that, or like seeing things on like social media and that of the Inferno when it first came out. I wasn't really playing back then, but seeing it and being like, oh, that's cool. That looks really cool. Don't know what it is.
Yeah. No, I mean,
back then, but
here's the thing that's crazy though, is when Inferno dropped, vast majority of people were like, I am never going to touch this piece of content. Like,
yeah,
I'm just never going to do it. And that was kind of the mindset. The mindset was very much like, okay, there's like some legends in the community that will do this and it's not for me. But nowadays, the community feels, and this is to I don't know. I think the dev team has honestly done a great job of trying to get people more into PVM, and I think Toa was a great avenue for that, trying to get more people to get involved in raids and stuff. But it's like, dude, nowadays everybody's expecting to be able to beat everything in a way. Not now. I think Zuck Helmet is kind of still on a pedestal in a way, but most bosses and everything else seems to be completable. So as a brand new player to this game, that has got to feel so overwhelming.
Yeah, and I think that's why they've started bringing in all of these kind of lower tier bosses, right? Because I'm a big fan of, like when Scorius came out, I was like looking at it as, if I was a new player and I'm looking at that, it's just a big rat, really, isn't it? You look at it and you go, oh, that can't be that scary. It's not some big demon-looking thing with multiple waves of monsters that you got to fight to get to. You look at it and you're like, okay, that doesn't look that bad. And then once you start learning it, thinking from a new player kind of perspective, you're learning about, all right, well, I've got to move out the way because there's rocks falling on me and that hurts if it hits me. I've got to watch what a taxi's doing and then change these things called prayers that, will mean that I don't take damage. But it's like, I see what they're trying to do with all this new content is trickle in for newer people, because let's face it, they're trying to expand the player base all the time. They're trying to, trickle in these end-game mechanics through, easier versions, and then it becomes muscle memory and all that sort of thing. But it's also just in-game awareness as well, which I really like what they're doing with it, with the whole new bosses and that, because it is like a stepping stone. Because if you look at really what we've got of maybe a year or two ago, the difference between, all right, doing Barrows compared to, like you say, doing Zulrah. I remember me learning Zulrah was... I've never rage quit a stream before. Zulrah made me rage quit a stream before a few years ago. Like the Inferno is really daunting for a new player, but it's all about the process of learning all these different mechanics via, like you say, TOA as well. And I'm not a massive fan of TOA just because I find it a bit boring. I can't do more than a couple at a time. But I like the whole invocations with that, because you can make it as hard as you want and build yourself up, which I think is kind of the PVM ladder that we've got now. especially with, like I said, all the new things they're dropping in and sprinkling in. Which I know we've got different tiers of the community as well. But yeah, I think it's making the big scary things a little bit less scary because we're learning some of their mechanics through doing other things that are a bit more achievable. They seem like there's something I can do maybe in a month's time, not you look at Inferno and go 10 years time kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. It's actually kind of interesting. You say Toa's boring. I just find it exhausting. It's just
that as well. Yeah, the mental strain of it.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
just absolutely exhausting. I think partly, I've touched on this before in other casts, but partly because of the puzzle rooms where it just feels like you don't just have 4 bosses to go or to kill before you get to the main boss, the Wardens. You have like 8 in a way. Like you just have
Exactly,
these 8
yeah.
rooms, and it's just like, holy crap, there's so much going on every raid, even though they're relatively short. But I don't know. It's just like
It's not like I jump in, I kill the boss, and I come out, and then I go and do it again.
Yeah.
It's I go in, faff around for 20, 30 minutes, and then fight big boss.
yeah, yeah.
Which I guess is what the Inferno is really. Just a
Yeah,
bit longer, half an
it's-
hour.
I still wonder, like, what would Toa feel like if it had no puzzle rooms? If it was just straight into the 4 bosses? And so, I don't want to make this, I don't want to go too much into the Toa conversation just because I seem to do it a lot. But it's like, I would just love to have seen, I wonder what the comparison would be like if Toa was in the same format as Tob. So you go into Toa, the rooms are already laid out exactly how they are. So there's not like some main lobby or anything. You just go to like the ghost or whatever at the end of each room to claim some more supplies or whatnot. And then you go to the final boss without any of the puzzle rooms. So it's just 4 main bosses in a certain order. And then you go in, and there's still invocations, but not quite as many because they're only going to be obviously for the bosses themselves. But
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I just feel like that would have just felt so much cleaner in a way. But I see what they were trying to do. I'm glad Jagex still experiments with things. But like, I don't know. Toa.
It's like
was
different
just-
content as well, because
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you say, if you compare it to Tob, where it is you fly through all the rooms, you get to the end, job done. But with TOA, it's like a different flavor on the same thing, if you get what I mean. Like I see what they were doing with it. It's like if you look at Chambers, for example, with that you can completely change how the raid is by just going in and out of the raid and changing up what rooms you do, which I really like about Chambers, because there's some absolutely horrible rooms in there that you can just get rid of and not even have to worry about. Which I guess if they'd done the same thing with TOA, they'd have to add in more puzzle rooms, if you get what I mean, that you could then mix and match. But I like that they're doing different things. It's not just copy and paste. They're just different, NPC models or monster models kind of thing. And some people hate Chambers, some people hate Tob, but they love TOA.
It's crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah, I honestly just wonder what data they're getting on like Jagex's end, what the dev team is looking at for Raids 4, because apparently they haven't even started development yet. I think that was news from Mod Ash. And I'm just so curious how they're going to go about it, And it sounds like, I don't know if you have heard like Mod Kieran talk on this, but I feel like they're going to be straying away now from modifiers and invocations with Raids things, because they see it as like overly complex and it's hard to balance stuff. So,
And I mean, we've got that with TOA.
Yeah.
Like the next one will be something familiar but something different, which is kind of what they did with TOA, right? I could what I'd love to, because the whole, I know sailing is a whole other kettle of fish, a whole other conversation. But I could see that the reason, I can see in their minds, all right, well, we're not working on a Raids 4 at the moment. We've got this next big thing, which is sailing. I could see there being a raid that is kind of a pivot off of sailing, something out in the seas and something like that that maybe involves the skill, or you use the skill to get there, if you get what I mean. Which I can kind of see from their perspective. All right, let's see the response from sailing before we think about this next big bit of content, because let's face it, raids are a huge bit of content in the game, and sailing is like the next stepping stone on their big boy release roadmap, so to speak. But I could see something tied in there with that for Raids 4.
For sure. What are your thoughts actually on sailing? Are you excited? Are you an optimist or a pessimist?
I am.
Okay.
I am. I am an optimist for it. I had some ideas for it that I think would be really cool. But we look at the map. Half of it is water. Half of it we can't explore at the moment. So sailing, you'd hope, emphasis on hope, would open that up, and the whole world becomes accessible with cool stuff that you can do in between. And it opens up because let's face it, there's only so much land mass at the moment in the game that they can actually add new content to without obviously adding dungeons and everything like that. But the sea has a lot of space for them to play with. And if they do it right, which I have faith in them, which is probably dangerous me saying I have faith in them.
No, I don't think so at all. I'm very trusting of the team. I feel like they've been really good with. I mean, again, I'm talking about the team, not the higher ups. The higher ups, I'm very there. It's shaky.
Yeah,
it's shaky
yeah,
right
yeah.
now. But the actual dev
They're not
team,
the core of the game. They're not
Yeah,
the
yeah.
core of the game.
I mean, I mean, we'll touch on this a little bit later, but just look at Varlamore. Varlamore's insane, and they've done
One of
such
the
a
best
phenomenal
updates to the
job.
game.
Oh yeah, and we still have part 3.
100%.
It's going to be crazy. So I have a lot of trust in the dev team, but again, sailing is like a completely different beast.
Yeah. It'll be. I'm interested to see how they weave it into the whole tapestry that is this game, and it not set it alight, or something breaks, or something becomes obsolete, or maybe fire making becomes actually relevant. Maybe it brings some life into something that we already have now.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for it, just to see how they do it, what they do with it, and kind of the beauty of this game as well is that we as the players have a voice. It's not like they're going to bring something in necessarily that is going to completely change the whole landscape of this game, because this is, a community-driven subsection of what is RuneScape, right? Old school wouldn't be a thing if the community wasn't asking for it. And I think I've got friends who kind of are in other communities and that, and old school, I think, has a very special thing with we have a voice and we get listened to, and we can vote what comes in and what doesn't. So if there's anything that comes with sailing that everyone goes, "What is this? What are you doing, mate?" I think we'll have a voice to say, "No, we don't want this in our game." If it's something catastrophic,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Catastrophic.
yeah,
And even then, who knows? Maybe I'm still worried they would double down because of how much, time they've spent in it. But I don't know. I can't see any update coming into this game honestly being catastrophic. I think they're pretty careful with a lot of things.
yeah. Because let's face it, the dev team themselves are players, right?
Yeah.
They don't want to bring anything into their game that is gonna ruin it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I'm pretty optimistic. I'm still, in reality still about how I feel about sailing. But we'll just have to see with the beta tests coming out. They've promised a couple beta tests before they actually drop it into the live game. And I think that's going to just be a really good thing. And it looks like they've already made really good strides towards simplicity on the boats. I think originally the boats were just like overly convoluted for no reason, just to like keep you engaged. I'm like, dude, we just want to be able to move our boats. Like that's it.
Half of us are sat back in our chairs playing this bloody game.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it, and I just think the exploration aspect of sailing is going to be phenomenal too. Just underwater places and new islands, and maybe even a new raid like you were mentioning.
Yeah. Go up against Aquaman, kick his ass out in the sea.
Now, this is actually several years ago. I had been talking. This is before Varlamore was even really being discussed, but I was imagining like how cool would it be to have sailing introduce Varlamore. So like you had to train your sailing, and then you get to a certain sailing level, let's say 70 or something, and then you actually unlock Varlamore. And again, like obviously seeing Varlamore now, that would have been kind of weird. But there still is that
a little bit.
Yeah, like there still is that potential now for a smaller sort of island to be actually unlocked through sailing. So, you want to get to these new ports. there's this new island that they won't allow you to, be on their coastline until you get a certain sailing level or whatnot. You've traded them over stuff from the mainland, and then they accept you, and then you have like this nice little training area where it's like all yours because you got a high enough sailing level. There's just so many cool things like that. But I want to kind of shift gears and just talk about how successful Varlamore's really been. So I started a brand new Ironman in November, and it's actually crazy how much time I've spent like in Varlamore. But it feels still balanced. It doesn't feel like it's a place like, I feel like a lot of other games would make a new piece of content that would just dominate older areas.
And everything gets thrown there.
Yeah.
Everything under the sun. Anything new. We're not touching anything else in the game. I'm completely with you because I made a new hardcore middle of last year, maybe tail end of last year. And yeah, Varlamore spent so much time getting ready for like Barrow. So it was a hardcore where it's like collection log based, and I spin a wheel and I've got to go and do what the wheel tells me. And I got Barrows, get an item, and Varlamore for getting your prayer up so you can actually use the overheads, and then like moonlight muffs instead of prayer pots. Insane. Yeah, Varlamore spent a lot of time there on that new account. I think it's a nice, and like we were saying before about new players coming into this game, like as soon as they figure out what a Varlamore is, they're going to be spending so much time there because there's so much early game content, but there's also that little sprinkle of higher tier stuff as well.
Yeah.
Which, it's definitely up there with, I'd say probably one of the best updates in the time that I've been playing the game that I've seen come into the game, for sure.
I mean, were you here around 2016?
2016?
Like very beginning when they dropped Zaya?
No, so I came in, 2019, 2018?
Okay. Dude, so I started like September 2015 playing just a main account, and I remember how excited I was for a brand new content to drop. Not continent to drop. And I was so excited, and they were like going to drop it. I knew it wasn't going to be absolutely like mind-boggling because I knew the dev team was pretty small, but I was still really looking forward to it. Bro, they came out with a fucking square. It was just a fucking square. Like, have you seen the old Zaya map? I need to pull this up.
Yeah, I have seen it. I think I was watching a video about the evolution of Zaya. And yeah, I remember seeing it and being like, what is that?
Bro, I need to just link this to you one more time.
All right.
This is actually what it fucking looked like. This was Zaya. Like, this is what it dropped.
Yeah.
There was no Wintertod. It was just 4 squares. Literally just like playing 4 square. You're back in elementary school. Dude, it was embarrassing.
You go, half of that looks like it's something to do with farming. With all the green.
Dude, look at Tide Farm. Look how massive that is.
Yeah, that is a unit. And I bet people still only use like the few patches by the door.
Oh yeah. Dude, this was actually just a straight up yikes. I'm sorry. Like, it just was. And the crazy thing is like, okay, they've made obviously adjustments to everything. Even Arceus has been slightly adjusted. You can tell. I think some of the buildings.
Yeah, it's slightly
yeah
shifted around a little bit.
But Arceus and Piscarilius and Lovakang all look really bad still. This is again not to like, just shit on Zaya or whatnot, but like those places still look bad. Now they've done amazing changes to Shazian and Hosidius, just absolutely gorgeous.
Oh,
I'm
100%.
So excited for them to just pimp out the other 3 places. But this is
but
actually
Lovakeng, I think, needs some love because there's nothing to do there.
Totally. It's so bad. Every building looks bizarre. It's way too big.
Yeah.
They're just randomly spaced out. Like what they did with Hosidius was perfect, where they have like a more condensed little town, and then everything else is a lot more like foresty and kind of spaced out and stuff, which just seems so much more natural.
Yeah, and it feels more kind of alive as well.
Yeah. this is like
Sure.
something. I'm sorry. This is like something like a middle school team would have done in like graphic design or something. It just
You say that. I'm looking at the bit by Shazian. It looks like you've got like the spray can on paint. It's just kind of just a little bit on there.
oh man. Anyway, again, it's like they didn't have much to work with, and they had a deadline and stuff. So I don't necessarily blame them. I mean, I couldn't do this good of a job, if it was my project and I had no like, outline for it, just come up with something. But
yeah, just make it up, mate.
So
what are you gonna do?
the whole reason I bring that, like, just look at the middle, by the way, the Great Karen middle. Just
I'm just looking at that as well. It looks like the wizards outside Varrock.
Yes,
they're just chilling there as well. Yep. It's their new spot.
So the reason I even bring this up is just to marvel at the fact that Varlamore is just hundreds of times better than this,
especially from like the day one release.
Yeah,
because the day one release came out full of content. Everything is like positioned in a way that feels like you say natural, and the way that kind of just the whole lay of the land, and just wherever you went within the lands, there was something to do, and especially how it was all tied in with Hunter as well. Like the whole, it feels like a hunting ground kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it feels, I don't want to say real, but I want to say real. Like if you were to like go to a new town or something, obviously within medieval times or whatever, a fantasy land, it feels like a natural place, and it feels like something that, like an ecosystem to it, if you get what I mean.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I
wasn't too over like shocked, like blown away by part 2. But I think part 1 was so good. Part 2 to like live up to that would have to have been, they've added another bit, a whole other part of it, a whole other island.
Yeah, part 2 obviously was a little bit. I mean,
like
in my
DLC.
opinion, it was like, it was just like a DLC. I mean, because I don't know. I thought, and everything was very well balanced, I thought as well. Like, I loved the new little bosses and the Easter eggs, and obviously mixology was great. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to part 3 too, to fully connect the lands together, and it's just gonna look absolutely beautiful. Like, I don't know. I'm just really impressed with all, and then going back even further to just trusting the dev team. I mean, the fact that they could make this is pretty impressive, and I just have like a lot of hope for like the future of content and stuff. And it's all, dude, here's the craziest part, is it's all so well balanced too. Like, it's good enough to go there, but you don't have to go there.
Exactly.
It's perfect.
The whole ecosystem of the game. Like, I love that Moons of Peril is essentially just Barrows, right? Yeah. And the rewards are the same.
The rewards are better,
but a bit better.
Yeah. But they're more expensive too to upkeep.
Exactly. I just had to repair my Blood Moon chest plate.
Oh god.
There's like 2 mil I'm not getting back.
Yeah. yeah. But it's so balanced, because that thing is a really powerful piece of armor for
it's amazing
mid-game place. Yeah,
I've been like using the paddles at Araxor this week, because someone in my comments said, why are you using like your zombie axe or whatever. Slap, they are insane there, especially if you like use like the full like Blood Moon setup in places.
It's crazy.
Cracked. Yeah, love it.
They're so good, dude. You know what's even crazier about those maracas is, bro, there's a super high stab accuracy on those, which I have no idea why they're stab. So I was literally going and doing my dragon tasks on my last hardcore group with those, because I was just stabbing them twice, and it was crazy. It was like literally, it felt like it was better than a Hosta. They're just going in there, stabbing them, and you would normally need an anti-dragon shield, but I was just praying mage against these blue dragons with,
and just tanking it if you did get hit.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like I was but I was murdering them like so quickly. It was crazy.
Bad time to be a blue dragon.
Oh yeah, it was bad. But it's actually crazy how powerful those items are, and yet they still feel balanced. They made them cost a decent amount to upkeep.
Yeah, which
is good.
With like new stuff, I'm kind of when they add new stuff in, you need charges or you need to repair it and all that sort of stuff. I'm like, oh god, another chore,
Yep.
another chore. But it makes complete sense. I mean, I'm still gonna moan about it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It
No,
makes complete sense
yeah.
for the whole game, like it to fit in with everything and not be completely overpowered
Hmm.
and not be, the new best in slot from a boss that you can do at a pretty low level.
Yeah.
Um,
And having the
yeah.
drop rates very reasonable as well.
Oh yeah, I green logged in. I can have a quick look because I my green log for it is pretty nuts.
Oh God, how many?
Uh, 141.
Wow, full grain log 100. That's the dream, actually.
Yeah, and I think I did a couple more after that for like a bingo I was doing.
I mean, just think about that. 140. Now, obviously, you were lucky, but I think average is
Yeah,
like maybe 250 or 300 or something.
something
And
like that. Yeah,
and it's like, dude, the fact that you can fully green log and get all these amazing items in that little of time, like it makes
and they
perfect
had like
sense
dupe
why there's.
protection on as well, right? Or at least for like the set,
Yep.
you couldn't get yeah. Which I wish they had that at Barrows because it took me like 1,500 to green log Barrows.
Yeah. And the thing is, that's like rate. Like 1400
Yeah,
is like
exactly.
rate, which is wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's cool, and I like those sort of like dupe protection systems. They can't add it everywhere, obviously, because
Oh
I
no
don't.
no no.
It's not even like I don't want them to. It's just the fact that it's not feasible. Like it's actually like how would you even go about it? Because like for example, let's just throw in raids, and I'm not. This is mainly for like my audience, like who's maybe like, oh yeah, we should do this system everywhere. It's like you're gonna pull the Tebow or whatnot, and then for a fact you're not gonna
You're
get
not
that
getting another
Tebow
one.
until you get everything else. And you're like, okay, well I'm out of here. Like I'm dipped. You
Yeah.
know, just like
You gotta go and get everything else, and then you can get another one. It's
yeah,
like it doesn't really work like that. But also, I think it would just make the game a bit boring.
it would.
You know, like that's the whole point of this game. Is it's a grind to do anything in the game. And if you're guaranteed that you're never going to get the same item again until you've completed that bit of content, that content dies instantly. As soon as you get the item that you're there for, all right, I'm off. Bye. Never to be seen again until you want to complete the collection log.
Well, let me ask you this: have you touched Royal Titans yet?
I have. I've actually made a couple of guides on it as well.
Nice. So
I like it. I like it a lot.
yeah, I actually haven't touched it, so I can't. I mean, I've watched people kill it, and it looks amazing. But here's the thing: I've seen Reddit posts. It is like across the board, everybody loves it. Like
Yeah.
everybody loves it. It's just a perfect
Which is a
update.
first, I think, that everyone loves a new bit of content that comes in. No
Yeah,
one's got anything bad to say about it. Yeah.
and the fact that it came out and they didn't like really touch anything. I'm pretty sure nothing's been adjusted really. It's just they dropped it and it's perfect. I could be mistaken on that.
Yeah.
But,
I don't think there was any rollbacks or anything like that, or
like
any
I don't
hot
think they've
fixes
changed
or
any drop rarities either, have they? Like there weren't people complaining about that. Like it just feels like that. And here's how I perceive it: the reason it was such a successful update is because the drop rates are so reasonable.
yeah,
They're so
exactly.
reasonable.
I think what is it, 1 in 83, something like that for the prayer scrolls. Which grinding out 83 of them easy, especially if you're doing it with a mate as well.
Yep.
You can fly through the kills. But it's fun as well. It's a nice look. I don't want to say it feels like a mini game, but it feels like you can go off with your mate because you're waiting for some pals to come on to go and go raiding. And you go, should do a few KC of this, warm up a bit, fly through 20, 30, 40 kills, maybe get an item. But also all like the drop table as well just feels so beneficial because you're getting like decent seeds, you're getting alkaballs, decent runes. There's nothing on there you're like, that's a bit of a shit drop. Everything in there feels like useful, not necessarily in I'm going to go off and use this water battle stuff I've just got, but I'm like, that's like 9k, cool, happy days.
Yep.
Couple of quid to get the bus home.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's just like it's so good. And I don't know what it is exactly, but well, I mean, it's my opinion, but I honestly think what makes content really good when it comes to like PVM is reasonable drop rates that feel very attainable. And now don't get me wrong,
Worth your time.
Yeah. It's gotta like value you as a player, your time and everything like that. I also, this is another hot place that I always talk about is like Nightmare. Nightmare is Fasani's Nightmare is actually really good content. The problem is the rarity of these items are so extreme, even after
It just
multiple
they just seem silly
buffs.
to get.
Yeah, it does feel silly to get
They're
because
just
it's
so
unreasonable. It's
they
just
don't
unreasonable
exist.
drop rates.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I mean, I've done a little bit of Nightmare, and I even like during leagues, still never seen anything there.
Jesus.
And I think
It's
one of my pals got one of one of the like, armor pieces, and I think that was it. Oh no, they got an orb, and that was it. That's all I've seen there. An orb.
that's
Not
crazy.
not the staff. They can't do anything with it. Maybe play football with it, but yeah, it's useless. But like, I feel like whenever I do kind of a few raids at Chambers, maybe like 1 in 10 will see something. And if you do a TOA, maybe 1 in 5, someone will see something. At Tob, it feels like, oh, it seems to be shitting out purples. They're not necessarily always good ones, but you're seeing something that you're like, oh, that's not a potato cactus or some coconut milk or, a few runes and a yew tree seed. It feels like you're actually getting things, whereas, yeah, like you say, Nightmare, fuck that place.
Yeah. And the saddest part is it's all because of drop rates being unreasonable. They just are.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it just makes me
And it's
it
not
makes me
really a
sad.
fun one to grind out as well.
And the thing is, it would be a fun one to grind out. Let's just say, I think the drop rates are like 1 in 115 now. And
Yeah, they brought them down, right?
yeah. Well, they brought
Yeah.
it up, I guess. I guess it's
Oh, bro,
technically
yeah.
But
Number got
imagine
smaller.
imagine they're making it more rare over time. Just like we're gonna
Yeah, just to
Jeez.
say fuck you to everyone.
Yeah.
Stop moaning.
But like just think about this. Before this, they came out with Fasani's, which was basically already a 30% drop increase. And that was
Yeah.
back when they were like 1 in 167. So
Yeah.
before Fasani's dropped, you had these 20-ass minute solos if you wanted to do it. And the drop rates were 1 in 100 to see something. Like,
And then
bro,
you get
you're
some
talking
bass.
about a raid level time duration at a
Yep.
1 in 100 to pull something. Jesus, man, what were they thinking? And that was even after multiple buffs as well. So on release, it was absolutely out of control. It was just so bad. There's an old Bodhi video of him doing Nightmare on release, and he did. I could be wrong on this. I'm pretty sure this is right though. I think he did like 200 or 300 nightmares in massive masses.
Jeez.
And I think
I
they
bet that
saw
still took like a week to do.
it was like several days, I think. It was just like a couple days.
Yeah.
And he saw one thing and it wasn't even his. And then he saw like a jar and like an item. That was it. Across the board of like 200 to 300 kills with tens and like maybe like 30 or 40 people in them. He
Yeah.
saw one fucking thing. It's so bad. Like, dude, this is out of control. Anyway, so if they were to make Nightmare, this is just completely spitballing, just in theory. Just imagine this. But imagine an item at Nightmare was like 1 in 40. So
Yeah, that's reasonable.
yeah, it would feel so
Really
good. It would
reasonable.
feel like something you actually want to go do because you're going to get these cool upgrades. They're not absolutely best in slot at a lot of places. I think like maybe a couple places that are best in slot,
Yeah,
like Inquisitors, but
I don't see many people running about in it.
yeah,
Like any
that
of
would
the
be
stuff from there.
so
Yeah.
fun though. That would be such a awesome piece of content to go there and feel like you can actually meaningfully and reasonably get something.
It's like even the rest of the drop table is just not worth it.
Yeah.
Like you're just burning through supplies.
Yeah.
Like it's a bit different to like say Nex where you use a load of supplies there, but you get some decent stuff back and you get your a percentage of your supplies back there. But you actually see items that is
Yep.
why you're there. Whereas Nightmare, I went there probably about 3 months ago. I did some with a few friends, and we were hopping through. No one there. It was a ghost town. Absolutely, because who wants to go and grind it?
Yep.
It is a shame because like the fight itself, it's all right, but if you're doing it with some friends, like you said, it is like doing a mini raid, really, and it is fun to a degree. But it would be even better if you're actually getting something out of it instead of, like I said, some bass that drop on the floor and you go, huh? It's not even going to heal me up.
Yep, it is bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, but just tying it all back to that Royal Titans update, like that was pure success on every level. So
100%. And it felt like something that's been in the game years. Like it didn't.
it
Like
feels
it felt
natural.
fresh. It
Yeah.
felt new. Exactly. It was like a natural addition to the game that just fitted in perfectly. So you know when you're slotting like a shelf and it goes like that and it goes
Yes. Oh,
yeah, you know what I mean. It was just like that, perfect.
yeah. Well done, Jagex. Honestly. So
Yeah,
yeah,
round of applause.
I'm pleased with the route they're taking, and it seems like and honestly, I bring up these examples of Chambers and Nightmare and stuff, and honestly, the devs. It sounds like when I talk to them, they actually kind of agree. But the thing is, they hold they have they're like basically juggling multiple sort of like ideologies in their head where like
Hmm.
they are working as a team and they understand just how impactful it would be to devalue somebody's achievements. So don't get me wrong, the game is constantly getting devalued, but that needs to be the case in order to create a healthy game for the biggest number of players. But
Exactly. Yeah.
like Mod Kieran was saying, it's like, dude, you cannot just like slash drop rates and to just double them across the board.
No,
Even though it
not at
would be
all.
a good thing, but like, because like even he would say like it would be cool if this was like had always been the case. But as soon as something's been out for years and years and years, it's so devastating for a normal player to see their achievements get devalued or to see their item that they spent so much time on get, significantly cheaper just because of something. But I don't know. It's a tough thing to do. So I don't envy the devs' positions because they actually do agree with a lot of these kind of sentiments. But it's just where do you go from there?
And I think as well, like having something like Nightmare where the drop rates are just insane. If you were to buff that up, if you take the economy out of the whole equation and just in kind of tiering of just content in general, if you were to bump that up, well then something else is going to become this takes bloody ages to get anything here, and realistically it doesn't. It would kind of tilt the scales, if you get what I mean. Like something else would become the laughing stock of it takes a million hours to get anything here. But
Yeah, I mean,
realistically, does it?
I could see that in theory for sure, but I mean, Chambers and Fasanis have always just been the two outliers.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think, like maybe Nex, but not even. The only reason Nex is egregious is when people do it in masses. Then it just takes forever to get things. But
yeah. I mean, I've done like half and half my KCs at Next mass and small groups. I've done like 250. I know it's not loads, but I still not had anything. I've seen stuff,
Yeah,
and I've
yeah.
seen quite a lot in masses, but I've not had anything personally. But that's okay. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
A little bit of copium, but
You're totally okay with that, huh?
yeah. But I think for the whole balance of just, we've got so much content in this game now.
Yeah.
There's so many bosses that you can do. It's okay to have some that are horrendous drop rates, I think, just for, like you say, for achievement's sake, but also just for that ladder. Not only for skill, but also for getting stuff. You know?
Yeah,
I think it
yeah, I can.
adds some different levels to the game, and it would be nice if Nightmare's drop table was better though. Just in not the actual uniques, but just the stuff it gives.
Oh, the normal loot.
Yeah, it kind of would soften the blow a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the loot it drops is pretty shit.
Yeah,
Which
I mean,
then adds to this doesn't feel worth it. I'm wasting resources, I'm wasting time, all that sort of stuff. Which I think is maybe where tweaks need to be made, not necessarily on the uniques, on the stuff you get on the way to hopefully getting something and not going bone dry there. Yeah,
yeah, somebody had even mentioned, I was talking to somebody else I mean, and I'm generally, when I talk about Nightmare, I'm talking about Fasanis. I actually haven't even, like,
I got you. Okay, yeah.
it's been forever since I've touched normal Nightmare. I'm actually surprised when you were saying you went there with friends to normal Nightmare. Holy hell, that is still, that, I mean, I think you were definitely being quite pleasant, but that is not in comparison to a raid. It's actually quite shit. Normal nightmare, honestly, just like the chip damage you still take. I'm pretty sure normal nightmare still chip damage you.
There is a
damages
little
you.
bit, yeah. Yeah.
It's weird because like Fasani's, even though it's technically more difficult, it's actually easier in a variety of ways than normal nightmare. Believe it or not, like the husks, you can
Yeah, I
guarantee
can
one
imagine.
shot. Basically, the little parasite thing you can one shot if you basically max hit if you're on a crush weapon, which I don't think normal nightmare allows you to do that. In my perfect
I don't
world,
think so, no.
in my perfect world, I would have loved to have seen Fasani's become the only nightmare, and you can still group it with up to 5 people. How cool that would be! Like that would be intense. That would be such a fun, intense fight with the boys. I don't know. That'd be cool.
You bring your poor mate who's like the carry.
Oh yeah.
He's just in the corner fighting for his life, like rocking, like make it stop, make it stop.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah, that would be funny.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just I just to make a positive update, things need to be reasonable and feels like your time needs to be valued. And oh yeah, that was the one point I wanted to make. I was talking with somebody else on the cast saying like, what if they introduced blood shards to Fasani's drop table? I was like, that would be a valuable at that point.
Yeah,
You could.
it would make sense as well.
Yeah, you would actually feel pretty good about grinding that place because you're actually stacking up blood shards long term. That'd be cool.
Yeah, because they threw blood essences onto Nex's table, right? And you can get I got a shed load of those when I was doing it when it first came out, which was it's great now for me. He's now doing ring crafting. Thank you, past me. But no, something like blood shards would make sense to throw in there instead of it being just from Vyres. It's
Yeah.
Vyres and all, yeah. It would make sense, and it's also like a nice. It's not really a unique. Well, it is, but you know what I mean. It's not like a boss unique kind of thing. It would be a nice thing just to throw in there that you're like, oh, okay, I'm actually getting something of value while going for the big ticket item.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to kind of switch gears and talk about your content creation journey and kind of how you see content creation now, how it shapes how you play the game, and also tips and tricks you've kind of learned as a content creator in order to, I don't know, clickbait well or make nice thumbnails or whatnot. This is kind of the stuff that, as a fellow content creator as well, it seems like it's just like this ever evolving journey of trying to make fun content that you enjoy, but also trying to make it so your audience can enjoy it, but also trying to make a reasonable title, but also you have to kind of clickbait them a little, not clickbait, but just make it as intriguing as possible to get people to click the video. So I want to just touch on all of that as much as we want. So I don't know where to start exactly, but let's just talk about the evolution of your channel and the success that you saw and how you kind of changed your approach to content creation after seeing certain things be successful and certain things not so much.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, with a lot of my content, it's all focused around, progression and learning new stuff, not necessarily with the best stuff as well. So I always try and, whenever new content comes out, I always try and do it in the worst gear that I like. I count as some decent stuff, but I always try and do it in a cheese way. How can I get around these mechanics? How can I do it with not necessarily max items, because I haven't got max like best in slots and everything like that. How can I do it in a way gets the job done, gets the kills, but I'm not getting absolutely dunked on by the boss kind of thing. So that kind of then stems off to the guides that I make as well. So what I find works quite nicely with the content I make is working on a progression episode that's like a week diary entry. But then in that week, I've learned how to do a new boss. So I'm like, okay, well, I think I'm at a point now, especially after I've done it a couple of weeks, I can make a guide on this, which normally is like the Wednesday video that I put up. So for context, my progression series goes up on a Sunday at 6 p.m. every week. That is like set in stone for the past 4 or 5 years. Has been every Sunday there is a progression video.
Every Sunday.
Every Sunday. I mean, it has
fail.
like in the past 2 years, I don't think I've missed a week.
That is
of a Sunday video,
crazy, dude.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Someone could probably correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I think it's for the past 2 years. I don't think I've missed a Sunday unless like, I've been away
Yeah.
because I do travel. I used to travel quite a lot
Hmm.
with a day job. But yeah, every Sunday 6 p.m. there is an upload that is the progression series, and I was doing another series as well, that hardcore collection log that I mentioned, that was Wednesdays as well. But then kind of I kind of finished that as like a season one, and there's only so many hours in the day, and especially where I found with that whole bingo structure, I found it really like way easier to kind of format my episodes as well, like you say, to format to something that you can actually get a decent title or a theme for the video. So like say I've been trying to get a Bando's chest plate for ages. I'm on like nearly 1600 kc no chest plate. But through that I've learned like the auto-door method. So like I could theme one episode, I learned the auto-door method or the best method at Bando's. People are like, oh, what could this best method be, kind of thing. And then made my own kind of tips on the, because obviously there's a lot of really good guides out there on the auto-door method at Bando's, but I was like, well, I've kind of picked up a few tips in here, like bones to peaches, blood spells, if you stand in this certain point while you're doing the minions after. I haven't seen that in any guides, so then I make a guide on it. There you go. There's my, I call them like RuneScape for Dummies, these guides that I put up in between. But it's all kind of content that ties into each other. So if you watch an episode, it's like, oh, I quite like to learn how he's done that. Then you've got the supporting guide video that goes with that kind of mini series within the main series. And one thing that I started doing, I think it was about 2 years ago, is I always used to put Dead Smithy Ironman progression series episode 100, 101, 102, 100. Scrap that, because if you're I looked at it as like, if I was someone who was trying to find some content to watch, if I see in like a title and a thumbnail it's episode 112 of like a progression series, you go, oh shit, have I got to go and sit back and watch through hundreds of hours of this series? So I started making it so each episode was its own standalone thing, but part of like a bigger story. So I've now kind of structured my episodes a lot better, that it feels like a, all right, well, these are the goals that I want to do this week. Let's get them done, or let's attempt to get them done. Emphasis on attempt. I am very spooned in my account, but sometimes I'm not. But I kind of I kind of got a plan for like the next couple of weeks of what I'm going to be doing. And it's all centered around that whole bingo idea, because it actually gave me as a creator some guidance on what I need to achieve within a span of a year, and how I pace that out, and how these different goals tie into each other. Because there's a lot of Slayer-based stuff on there, and I'm going for 99 Slayer this year, and I'm like, all right, well, if I want to do Zami better, I've also got on there like the Tormented Synapse. But I've been trying out the auto-door method with my Bofa, and I've had a load of people telling me, oh, you should go and get the Scorching Bow. It works way better. And I'm like, well, that ties in nicely with what I've got on my board, because I've got like some Zami drops that I need to get. But I've also got all this Slayer stuff that I need to do. So, all right, well, let's try and get a Greater Demon's Task to then step up our Zami game, which is kind of like the next thing that next story arc that I'm working on. I might have got a little bit off topic there, but...
No, I love hearing all this. Like, it's just how your brain is working as a content creator, because you're trying to play the game, trying to have fun as well, but also trying to create some sort of entertainment value as well. So like
exactly.
Sense.
And I don't want to make like kind of like what feels like a filler-in episode. Is that the correct term?
Yeah, like
you've got like
a filler episode.
A filler episode. Yeah, there we go. Like where nothing happens and it's just me killing stuff and going, oh, well, I didn't really do anything this week. We just killed a load of things and got fuck all.
Yeah.
So I'm always trying to, a couple of things in there that I'm kind of trying to push for, whether it's a big level or getting an actual decent drop, that I try and get in it. Because otherwise, as a viewer, we're just sitting back for half an hour watching him kill a Raxor and nothing really happens. Mm-hmm. That's not interesting for someone to watch. Or at least that's from my perspective as watching stuff. You kind of want to see a little bit of a kind of moment in there. But yeah, it's. I think if I look back, because what I've been doing is taking each year of like progression videos, and I've started making them into their own like full series videos. They're like 6, 5, 4, 9 hours long. And I've just uploaded the like year one, and looking back on that, and I'm like, Jesus, who was watching this back then? Nothing's happening. It's just me chatting on area shit. And there's nothing. Like you're going through all like the kind of low level stuff, and but then you look at the game back then as well, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, at that kind of level I was at, there wasn't really much exciting stuff you could do. It was all about pushing on to the next tier and pushing on to that next boss that you want to try and learn. But that will take X number of weeks to do. And I've got to tick off these things before I get there. But now, kind of, I'm in like a fun period of my account, and I feel like it's not as hard to make a video around something that can have some sort of excitement element in it, or a drop, or everything feels like an exciting thing at the moment with my account, which I think has motivated me a lot more as a creator. When DT2 first dropped, I tell a lie. How long ago was DT2? Was that 2 years through?
Yeah, about 2 years.
That was the first big break of not uploading in 6 years of uploading old school videos. I burnt out for 3 months doing Desert Treasure 2. Horrible quest. That thing fucking haunts me. I hate it. I hate it with a burning. I don't like quests. And
was it just difficult?
I think it wasn't. It was difficult. It was just bloody boring. I felt like running around delivering stuff and faffing about doing silly little tasks. I'm not a fan of quests. I find they're monotonous and mundane, and yeah. But you've got to do them to unlock the fun stuff, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like in a weird period as well, where I was kind of in a weird rut with my account. Like everything felt so far away, and this was before I'd started doing like that whole bingo thing as well. I hadn't really got a set plan for what I wanted to get done, but the things that I did want to do were hundreds of hours away, and it didn't feel like I was progressing as much as I'd like to. But I was like, I still need to make videos. I still got to, get episodes out and everything like that. And then I just DT2, fuck this. Took 3 months off, came back. And it's been all good stuff since. Motivated more than ever to play the game.
That's good. Yeah, I feel like there's certain seasons and stuff where things feel. I mean, I think for a lot of people I've talked to, Toa was that period where there's a lot of like burnout.
Yeah.
So there's like, I don't know what it is exactly. There's just certain elements that maybe it's like, maybe I'm only talking to the players that are more like me, where it feels like there's a real game-changing sort of update and can just feel overwhelming in a sense, and not as comfortable. Like there's something really comforting about old school, and something you can kind of just sink into. And when things become too overwhelming, or there's like too much going on, it can be like overly stimulating for a lot of people, including myself, where the game feels foreign and you have to kind of sink into that slowly to get back into that groove of things. So I feel like there's burnout with that as well.
Kind of foot off the pedal a little bit, plan a little bit less, doing a little bit more cozy content within the game.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of the beauty of the game as well. There just is so much stuff to do, and it's all completely different. If you were to compare agility to doing raiding, for example, night and day, completely different experiences within the game. You can go, all right, well, I need to take a break from PVM because I'm not getting the drops. I'm demotivated on that. All right, let's go and work on something else. Which is probably what I should have done, but instead I went and watched a load of films and actually sat in my front room for once and not on my desk. It's a nice change. Yeah.
No, it's good. It's good to have those breaks. So, do you have any YouTuber inspirations? People that you look up to as YouTubers and you try to kind of emulate.
To be perfectly honest, I don't actually watch much old school content. To be perfectly honest, I think it's because I've been doing YouTube now for nearly 15 years, about pretty much half my life I've been making videos on on this silly little website on the internet. And over that, like I've made so much different content. Like, I started out making Call of Duty montages, as I think a lot of us did back in the day. Whack some Linkin Park over the top and jump off a building and 360 someone. And then moved into like Let's Plays, and then moved into like the old funny moments videos back in the day, on like Gary's Mod and stuff like that. And then CS:GO, was making content on that. And then started making like shitty little memes and stuff like. And that's when my kind of last channel started getting really heavily throttled by the algorithm, because it was all copyrighted stuff. So it kind of, I don't want to say blacklisted my channel, but yeah, it kind of started to die. And that kind of, I was at that point, I was like, all right, well, I'm kind of getting into like watching like Rainbow Six Siege. So if you go like look on my channel, like the first videos on this channel, like Smithy TV, it's like Rainbow Six Siege stuff and PUBG. And that's when I was like started up streaming again, playing like PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds and making Rainbow Six Siege videos.
Yeah,
and I was like, all right, enough of that. I've kind of got into RuneScape now. And that's been, what I've been making ever since. I think after I uploaded my first progression video, but at the time then I'd started watching Mammal and Mudkip. I was watching them back then. That's when I was kind of like playing with my friends, and I started watching some videos and that, and I was like, oh, this kind of progression style thing's kind of cool. Let's try that. And then the snowball started to roll down the hill, and we're now 6 years later, and I'm still making progression style stuff. But I think it's nice, like with the videos I make, it's nice for me to. It started off as me to look back on how my accounts progressed and when I got certain items. Like I started making YouTube shorts of like when I get certain drops, like the big ticket items and stuff like that. But for me, it's just to look back and I can't remember when I got that. What KC? Oh, I got a short of that. Oh, let me go and check. So that's when all the shorts that I make, they started being thrown into the mix as well. But yeah, for like RuneScape stuff, it was mainly Mammal, Mudkip, and there's a couple of others as well.
I always
racking my brain now.
Yeah, no, I mean that was good enough. Yeah, I sometimes wonder, long term, when you start finding a comfortable pursuit with content creation, you start doing something, it feels kind of like you trap yourself. Not every content creator feels like that, but I feel like the majority, at least that I've talked to, tend to feel this sense of like you've already sunken so much time into this, and it's hard to get out of it. In fact, a lot of Twitch streamers, like live streamers, feel that, where like they dedicate so much time to OSRS, and then they're like, there's like this fear built up where like they can't
do anything else.
Yeah, they can't, because they'll lose what they've already built potentially, or just like the fear of just dying, but not dying, but like your platform dying, just basically losing viewers,
actually dying.
And
not
actually dying.
RuneScape anymore.
Probably a 1% fear of actually dying too. But it's like, because like for me, I mean, I've been content creating now for just over 6 years, so I always think to myself, what else could I be doing? So not necessarily to fully shift gears, but to make one gear shift of like, I want to do something that I've never done before and have some other creative thing. And it's just so many risks you need to take, because, well, it's not really that risky if you're going to do it in this slow sort of fashion where you're still keep maintaining everything else that's going well. But I feel like if you try it and then something doesn't succeed, it can kind of be off-putting to try again. But ultimately, like, something might stick, and it could be something really creative that nobody else has really decided to do. So that's been kind of on my mind lately. And I even had a conversation with Rendy just like a month and a half ago or so. It was like an exclusive episode, and we were just talking because he had mentioned, I don't know if you have heard of 25 Buttholes. He's OSRS creator.
Yeah, I have,
yeah, he's like that one guy that always has the TTS voice going on. But
yeah, I've seen his stuff.
Like Rendy and him talk and stuff, like, off just like in their own private Discord and stuff, and they're just
Yeah.
chatting and stuff. And 25 Buttholes was getting worried about, what he's going to do with his content, because it seems like his channel slowly kind of dying. It's like people just aren't
Yeah.
watching as much. And so he just made this crazy shift where he just made a video about like UFOs or something. Like got like 500,000 views out
rate
of
it.
nowhere. And like some of his like his previous videos were pulling like maybe 10K views or whatnot. And then he had this one just pull out like 500,000. It's just funny how one little, and he's kind of already, at least I'm not subbed currently, but I think he had at least made it a few returns to OSRS, because it is, obviously his main thing. But
Yeah.
when you make some other content, you see like, what other avenues you could take with content creation. It's fascinating when you just take one little risk like that and just see what the potential is. So, and then Rendy has
Kind of roll
also,
the dice, right?
yeah, no, it really is. And Rendy's also talked, because Rendy has his IRL channel, and so talking to you, it sounds like you've always been a content creator. Like you just like YouTube, you like making videos and stuff. And have you ever considered doing like something IRL, or is it mainly just like games is your passion?
No, I actually do. So I started May last year. I started getting really into comic books. And yeah, so I think it was maybe a couple of months after that. I thought, you know what? I think I could probably make some videos around this. So I kind of started looking into TikTok and what's going on there with comic books. I think what it was, I started watching one channel on YouTube, and then you start getting recommendations and that, and then I saw a couple of people on that with them making stuff on TikTok, and I'd seen some stuff on Instagram as well, because they're always watching at what we're searching and everything like that, and they go, oh, I see you've looked up comic books on this completely different website, here's some comic book content. I was like, oh, well, I see they've got a TikTok. Let's have a look at that. And I was like, oh, there's a whole new community on here of people making really cool content. And so for context, like new comic books come out every Wednesday. So there's always new stuff coming out every week. So what I started doing was going, all right, well, let's make some video, which is this is like a common bit of content that people do within the comic book communities, showing off what books they picked up that Wednesday. So now, like every week, I do at least one video on it on a Wednesday on TikTok, and I put it on Instagram. I also put it on, I've got like a second YouTube channel, and it's all vertical. It's only shorts and stuff like that. But I started making videos on that, and they're doing quite well, and like it's picking up traction, and that made some really good friends through the comic book community as well now. And then picking up other bits and pieces as well, and yeah, it's like I think for me it was a nice. It was a new content venture to do, but it was like the same, different, because it's a different way of filming stuff, because I'm like filming on my phone and using a tripod and all this sort of stuff. But it's a physical thing rather than just being sat in front of my computer playing RuneScape and editing on my computer and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So the main reason I got into the hobby was I've always had a love for like DC, Marvel, and all that sort of thing. This will be a fun hobby to get into, because it doesn't involve screens. It's something I'm really interested in anyway. Let's see how it goes. And it's now kind of picked up a bit of momentum in that, and especially the whole TikTok ban that was coming out. I then branched onto doing stuff on Instagram as well. But then TikTok came back within the day.
Yeah.
So it didn't really die or anything like that. It kind of just kept going. But yeah, that's been a fun little addition to kind of my content bow of making that sort of content as well. But it's been great for like my mental health as well. Doing something like not in front of a screen that I can go and sit somewhere and chill and put on some music and just kind of detox a bit. But it's just been like a really interesting hobby to get into. There's so much to it. Like,
so
there's
like, had you always been into comics and you just are now kind of creating content on it, or is this actually relatively new that you even got into comics, and how did it all stem?
So I've always been into like Batman, DC as a branch from that, and Marvel, and I bought like, so the way that comics work is you've got like single issues, which are like just the thin little books that you can get, like your traditional comic book. But then you've got things called trade paperbacks, which are multiple single issues compiled into maybe 6 issues within a book or 10 in a small book that is like a complete story arc. And I had a few of those when I was a kid. And I was a big fan of like The Walking Dead TV show. Well, that's all based off the comics. And when I was really into Walking Dead, I bought the big, they call them compendium books, which are like 20, 30, 40 issues all in one big book. And I had those when I was a kid as well. Yeah, and I we never would really read them. I'd flick through them and like, oh, cool, look at all these pictures and that. And I can't read words. I've never been like a book fan or anything like that. But I've always loved Marvel, like, and DC, and watching the films, and always been like interested in that kind of thing. And I'd always watch like videos talking about comics as well. But like I said, May of last year, I went I went on a very dangerous rampage on eBay, and the bank account took a bit of damage. Bought a load of random books. Went, oh, why did I buy all of these? They're not like, it's not like it's just random issues. I'm like, it's not going to read like a whole story. And then started looking up in my area where comic book stores are, because I found out that new books come out on a Wednesday. So I was like, okay, cool, let's go there. It's getting out of the house as well, because I work from home and play RuneScape at home. I'm pretty much at home, unless I'm going out with friends or whatever. But it was nice. I'm going out on a Wednesday lunchtime. I've now made really good friends with the guy who runs my shop. Picking up the books for the week and like reading like an ongoing story of comics, and also talking about it with people as well, because making the content, you then meet people who also like that thing. You start talking to them, make new friends, and yeah, it's like another thing to share. So to answer your question, never used to buy them like religiously as a kid or when I was younger. Got into reading them sort of middle of last year and haven't really looked back. Yeah, I'm now reading like 80 issues or something like that a month.
Damn. That's really cool, actually. Like, I don't know. I've never been into I mean, the closest thing to comics I ever got into was in elementary school with Captain Underpants. And
oh, yeah.
Is that considered a comic? I guess it is, kind of, right?
Yeah, I'd say so.
It's not quite the superhero kind of comic, though.
Yeah, but I mean, there are so many. There's a RuneScape comic, by the way, that's currently coming out.
No, I actually,
Issue 4
came
have
out
one on
yesterday.
my
bookcase. I think they.
Oh, do you? Yeah,
they
nice.
sent me one.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's literally a comic book about anything. So you've got obviously the main pillars of Marvel and DC, but there's also like smaller. Not, I don't want to say necessarily smaller. They are. You've got like Image comics, which are kind of fall under the indie category, and that's where like The Walking Dead, and I don't know if you've seen that Invincible, the TV shows on Amazon at the moment. That's all based off comics by the same guy who wrote The Walking Dead, and that's all under this thing, Image Comics. Then you've got Distillery, which is another like comic book writing company. But there's like so much. There's like a comic for everyone, which I really like. And I'm kind of finding myself now more leaning towards the indie stuff. Marvel was kind of I'll pick up a few. DC, I pick up like most of them. But then the indie stuff is actually really good. Like, there's some really good stuff that isn't just people running around in capes punching some clown who's killed the mayor. Yeah, now it's really interesting. It's like, yeah.
Is there like a collectible sort of scene in this where you buy comics and then you resell them because they're rare or something? Is it similar to trading cards at all?
Yeah, there is like a whole resale aspect to it. So, for example, there's a new like line of like Batman ones that are out at the moment called Absolute Batman, which is like there's Absolute Batman, Absolute Superman, Absolute Wonder Woman. So forget Wonder Woman, Superman at the moment. So the first issue of Absolute Batman came out the end of last year, and they come out at like $5 because it's all they're all printed in the States, so they're all done in dollars. So it's $4.99 for like that issue. That issue now on its own, I think, is about 50 odd, and that's not even been like a year. But then you've got like the first appearance of Superman that came out in like I don't know, 30s or the 40s. It's worth like 10 million.
Jeez. Is it
Yeah.
only worth that because uh
The age, the first appearance of Superman, it's like they call them key issues. So there's the introduction of a new character, a death of a character, a major event. They're all kind of key issues within the comic book world, and a key moment means hey, that's worth some money potentially in the future.
okay, so
Um,
I'm so curious on this now. Is that just is it because there's so few as well? I mean, I imagine is there just one that went for 10
so
million, or
you've got
do multiple people
well,
have
it
this and
being like
they'd all be worth it? Or is it does it also depend on the condition of it?
exactly. So it's like how you have trading cards of different grades. So like what's the main grading company?
Oh, I
Is
wouldn't
it
know.
PSA? They do like Pokemon card grading, baseball card grading,
Okay.
all that sort of stuff. They also grade comic books. But if you think, I think the first edition of Superman came out like the late 30s, early 40s. We're talking like just after the war. Back then, people could trade in comic books for like money, so they could take them to I don't know, like the post office or wherever, and they get money back. So then they could go and buy the next one. You also think we're nearly like 100 years from then. Um, Paper doesn't last very long,
Yeah.
so there's not many that are still in good nick, if even around at all. So it's the first appearance of Superman, one of the biggest superheroes. There's maybe about five of them left or something like that
Wow.
in,
Are
in
they
like
just
decent
completely?
condition.
Oh yeah, I was gonna ask. Are they just completely tattered? Do we have to like laminate it and just make it so there's no
So
decay?
there's a whole thing with comics that you it's called bag and boarding with like
Okay.
newer stuff. Not with something like that. You get it like properly graded and it's all like in like a plastic casing and everything like that.
Mm.
Like you see like graded cards.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But you put like books in like it's like a clear plastic sleeve with a cardboard backing on it to stop it from bending and keeps like the elements off of it and like that. And then you store it in boxes. So that's how you kind of keep them in good nick now. But back then, no one was doing that because no one was spending a couple of dollars or pounds on suppliers to keep their comics nice when they were spending like 3 cents on a comic.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's the reason why the one like those older books are so much have so much value is because there's just not many of them left that are actually in that look like haven't been through like a fire
Yeah, for real.
or like the dog's eating it. Yeah.
That is
But even like
crazy.
books that came out maybe like a year ago, some of those go for like $1,000 or a few hundred.
Wow. And they
And then you've got
originally were sold for just what? $20? $10?
so the normal price like a book now is about a fiver.
Okay.
So like $5. Like three, four, five, six. But then you've got like variant covers, which you've got the artist who's done the main book and the main front cover of the book. But then you've got these things called variants, which are different covers on the book by another artist, and there's not as many supplied of those. So you've got some that
Mm,
like if the comic book shop was to buy 25 books, one of those books would be this variant cover. There's a completely different cover and it's all fancy and everything like that. Those tend to be the ones that you would pay 10, 15, 20, 30. I think one I paid about 44 because it was like a foil special edition one kind of thing. Um, yeah, and they tend to hold their value and go up. It's very rare that they drop. Because so for the bestseller last year, which was that absolute Batman, the first issue, I think they sold about 400,000 issues, which is like ridiculous numbers for a comic book.
yeah.
But there's the first print, and then the second print, third print, fourth print. So if you've got a first print, first issue of like a big new series that absolutely bangs, or Marvel make a film about it, or anything like that, adds loads of value. It's like if you had a signed card and that person who, like the player dies, it's morbid, but that card becomes double the value because no one's ever getting that signature on that card again. Um, it's that kind of thing with like first print. There's only so many.
Wow. Okay. This just blows my mind how much like how the fact that you just were like, I'm just going to make content on comics, and just all of a sudden you just discover a whole new world. And I
Yeah.
mean, I recently just had Simo on the cast, who's like huge into Yu-Gi-Oh, and him explaining, just it's been going on for, over 25 years at this point of just
Yeah, yeah.
Yu-Gi-Oh trade card, and it's still huge, and it's like, I don't know, I just find it so fascinating because you would think in a more technological sort of society, we've kind of moved on from like the just paper and stuff, but no, it's like those are huge and people love collecting these like ancient artifacts and stuff. It's
Relics.
just fascinating to me. Yeah.
Relics of a past day. Yeah.
Dude, it reminds me of it was like some video just a year or two ago talking about like how there was like an a boxed up. It hadn't been unboxed yet. This original iPhone. So
Okay. Yeah.
and it sold for like $45,000, which
Yeah.
like that's
Insane.
not even. This is not something that's 80 years old. This is something that's like not even 20 years old. And at the time I think it was like 16 years old, not even like 15. It was like literally like 15 years old. It's like you literally just buy a product that's massive. It's not even like a crazy thing. Like to have been one of the people that buys an iPhone, that wouldn't have been that crazy. But you buy it and you just never open it. And in 15 years now you've made, 40.
Someone's going to want to buy that because it's sealed.
But it's like $44,000. It just wait,
Yeah.
that much, that long. That's crazy. Like, I don't know.
So I remember there was an iPhone that was sold that had Flappy Bird on it.
Yes,
And that went for like silly money because they took
Yeah.
Flappy Bird off the store.
Bro, when I
Who's
heard
buying this?
when I heard about that, because I actually had Flappy Bird on my iPod Touch at one point.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I'm pretty sure it's still on one of my old ones. As
yeah,
well.
I'm like, holy hell, like I need to find this now.
I've got a private yacht sat on my iPhone, right? Or iPod Touch
Seriously?
somewhere. Let's flog this bad boy. We're gonna be rich.
Dude, it's just crazy. Like you wonder what you should keep these days, Just
Yeah.
relics.
Oh, this is the thing. Like, I also like get action figures as well. Like, as part of the comics thing, it kind of goes hand in hand. And I see some people like, oh, I'm never taking it out of the box. I'm like, get that fucker out of that box now. It's going on that shelf. Yeah.
Yeah, you just wonder, and then you're gonna just like regret it one day. You're gonna realize like that thing you had was just so rare. I remember as a kid as well. There was some commercial that came on talking about like if you have a nickel,
Of a
with
certain year.
with the I think it was 1913. It was like worth like $1 million or something. I'm like, I just remember I just had like a pile of change as a kid. I'm scanning through. It's like, where is it? Where's the 1913 one? Yeah, I couldn't find
I
it.
watch a lot of there's I can't remember what his name is, but there's a YouTuber I watch he owns like a pawn shop,
Oh, okay.
and he gets loads of people going in taking in all these old coins because there's some I can't remember what year it was, but there was is it the silver coins that you have over there, is it dime or nickel or they
Like
both silver?
I think those are the 50-cent pieces, or if you're talking about a silver dollar, there's
But just like the color of it, like the
oh
silver
yeah, a dime or
coins.
a quarter. It would either be a dime or actually I guess or a nickel technically, but the most silver is probably a dime.
So it was like one of those
Okay.
of a certain like up to a certain year actually had silver in, and I
see.
it was this old boy had gone in there with this big bag of change. He dumped it on the counter. They're like looking through. What year are they? And where they're like old coins. You can't fucking read what any of these things say. But it's mad because it's like something like that you have laying around in your house that you don't even know about.
Yeah.
Could be worth a few quid. Which
Seriously.
yeah.
I
Crazy.
I find that stuff fascinating. That's
Oh, me too. Me too.
It's actually cool hearing about you just jumping into the comic book scene, because I've been thinking as well for like another project I would love to do with content creation is jump into another sort of community potentially. I don't know what it would be. There's obviously several interests I have, but it's just like,
Yeah.
I feel like there's just so much intimidation starting with something new. And I think there's also like, I have a fear of like perfectionism where nothing I do is perfect, by the way, but it just feels like I need to have everything figured out first before I do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, especially if it's something that you're going to sink time into as well. Like you
Yeah.
don't want to start it and you go, not really feeling this, but you've kind of invested some time, money, and you're like, well, all right, that's this month's phase.
Yeah.
No, I completely get what you mean. I think for me, it was like I was looking for, just like another little avenue to go down, and it was something that I've had a bit of interest in. I got into it because I started watching content and saw what kind of content I could make on it. I went, sod it, let's give it a go. And yeah, it's been a fun little side quest
That's
to
cool,
do on the
man.
side of kind of making old school videos. But I guess I've always had that content creator. Oh, I could make a video out of this kind of thing. Like I'd look at something and go, huh, that would be a fun little video if you did that and that. Yeah.
So let me ask, you're into YouTube with OSRS, you're on TikTok with comics. It sounds like you work from home as well. What do you have any hobbies, and what does your like day look like, and do you have anything else that you like doing?
I'm big into film, which is another thing is sitting on my arse. Um, yeah, football or soccer.
Okay.
I wash my mouth out with soap and water now I said that word. I used to play as well, but yeah, life gets in the way of working and everything like that. Used to play rugby as well. Used to play. I went to a rugby school. I actually got to play at Wembley back in the day, which is a cool experience. But yeah, no, most of my stuff now is sitting around.
Nice.
Sitting around.
No,
Yeah,
this,
I
yeah.
did used to play a lot of like Pokemon Go as well, mainly because it was getting me up and walking.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
I walk quite a lot. I do love going for walks and that. Yeah, because otherwise you become a hermit crab and yeah,
Yeah, definitely
fuse with
important.
your chair and that ain't good.
Yeah, definitely important to move the older we get. I
Yeah,
don't know how old you are. How old are you?
I'm 29.
Okay, you're my age. Yeah, I'm 29 as
Yeah,
well. Yeah,
starting to feel every ache and
yeah,
pain.
yeah, yeah. You gotta keep moving. That's for sure.
Yeah,
So
otherwise you just start decaying and
yeah, and it's just
Or
like
find me in a room with RuneScape on, but I've like disconnected and a load of just comic books everywhere, and they're like, well, he's having a good time, isn't he?
yeah. I mean, when you're young 20s, like when I was 21 to 25, like I could sit around. I could just completely be the most unhealthy person ever. I'm not gonna have any like actual issues really. But then they started
Yeah.
rising once you started approaching 30, getting into your 30s and stuff. Like you can't
And
be
you
doing the
start
same thing.
bubbling.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. It's like I feel like I hit because I only recently turned 29, like the end of Jan. I feel like I hit 29. I'm already bald, and I was like, I'm starting noticing more greys on my beard now. I'm like, oh no, is this it? Is this it? Oh
It's
no, fuck.
yeah, the no figuring out you're balding is just one of the worst. I mean, I've noticed I was balding a few years back, and I was just it's devastating. I'm just like,
I started going about 16.
oh no. You probably had a beard
Yeah,
around that point too, though, right? Because that's generally what
yeah,
happens.
but yeah, exactly. It all migrates,
Yeah. See,
and then you
yeah,
take a trip to Turkey, and then it migrates back to where it should be.
yeah. I've just accepted like in a couple of years I'll just shave everything. I'll just be bald. That's whatever. I'm already basically bald. I already shaved the sides. I just have a little bit of hair on top that it's fading.
Yeah. I
So
mean, mine was lockdown. I was like, I can't get haircuts anymore. Well, off it goes, I guess, and never look back.
nice, nice.
Save so much money on haircuts.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's totally true.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
well
no, I mean,
let me.
it's more streamlined, more aerodynamic.
Oh yeah, totally. The thing is, like, even during the winter, you can just wear a hat. You're totally good. Wear a
Exactly.
beanie. So,
Oh, I just realised I muted myself. Exactly.
let me ask you. What are your plans now for YouTube? Do you have anything excited in regards to OSRS? Are you just going to continue on your series? It sounds like you want to max next year. So,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the ultimate goal is getting closer and closer to maxing. Like, I want to learn as much PVM as I can and get somewhat good at it. Like, I feel like I've stepped up my PVM in abilities over the past like year and a half for sure. Like, I kind of set myself like I don't know if you saw on my bingo board. One of the things is the quiver. which I feel like is a nice next step.
Yep.
Not Scary Inferno just yet. But the Quiver, I think, is going to be the next big kind of PVM on the checklist done. So it'll be interesting to see how long that takes me. But yeah, next year is, I think, the year of the max for me. I'd like to, get it done. But I do find, like, if you look at someone's account and you go, oh, they're maxed. You're like, oh, that's, obviously a massive achievement. Huge. But then you look at someone who's, like, got 15, 16 99s and then loads of, like, over 90s. You're like, oh, that's a really cool account. Because it's like, it's interesting, different numbers on the screen.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, that is funny how that works. It's almost like you see some guy with like one defense or something, and the rest of his stats are like high 90s. Like that's more impressive than it seems. Like
yeah, exactly. Like, damn, you didn't get level 2.
Yeah,
that's impressive, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I want to put in a lot more time into PVM as well. I like seeing numbers go up. So seeing when you go on the high scores and you see. You go from 2 digits to 3 digits on a particular boss, then to 4 digits. You're like, oh, yeah, we're making progress because numbers going up. Yep. So, because whenever I'm like doing sort of running like bingo events and that, obviously, I like balancing out the board so there's enough stuff on there for everyone at any level of account to actually have something to do. And when we're like sorting out the teams and everything, like you can look at someone's levels, but if it's a PVM based thing. I don't want to say it's easy to max, but maxing is you put in the time, you get the XP, you get to 99. But with PVM, there's so much more complex stuff to how PVM is, if you get what I mean. The pool of PVM stuff. Mm-hmm. And looking at someone's KCs, you can sit and do 1 KC bando trips for 1 million hours and get 100 KC. But yeah, I think when I'm like looking at sort of that and looking at someone's abilities and that and looking at all that sort of stuff, seeing hundreds of KCs across the board or thousands of KCs across the board is really impressive because the amount of time investment that's gone into that to get more kills per hour and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. So that's one thing that I want to build on for next year and going forward, for sure.
It's definitely more than number go up with PVM for sure. It's just like
yes,
you can see your skill increase over time. One of the most exciting things I ever did was learn how to solo chambers, which was one of the most brutal learning experiences ever. This is like years ago. But yeah. I stopped caring about the purples because I was just getting so much fulfillment just from getting better. It just felt good.
Getting the job done.
Yep.
Yeah. It's like if I've used Bando as an example because it's one that I've done recently. Starting off learning that auto-door method, I tried all the other methods and they just weren't for me really. But trying out the auto-door, starting off, brutal. Because it's all timings and all that sort of thing. But now, I'm like, half the time I'm watching like Netflix while I'm doing it.
Yep. Doesn't that feel great?
It's like
because
at
the moment you feel like it's never going to happen. Like you feel like it'll never click and then it clicks.
Yeah, which is because I have a lot of people ask me like, oh, how did you learn this kind of thing? When I part of guides, but also like people in the community ask me like in like my Discord and that, do you mind helping me out with learning this? I'm like, yeah, no worries. Let's have a look what you're doing kind of thing. But you start seeing the mistakes you made when you were learning. Mm-hmm. And like, it's like one little bit of a little tip. You're like, just do this. And then they do it. And like, oh, that makes that a bit way better. But it's like, I love the whole thing of like within the community here, with old school, like sharing information with each other about learning different shit. I think that's awesome. So good.
Yeah, there's a lot of, it is actually so crazy how willing people are to share stuff that would actually probably more benefit them if they kept it to themselves in a way. But like, no, like everybody in the community is so willing to share and it's just great. Just look at, this is not even in regards to just sharing, information on how to PVM, but just look at RuneLight and all the plugins we get because people are just fully sharing just amazing plugins that we all get to enjoy. It's just great.
Yeah, and I think it's such a huge part of the game, the whole plugin scene as well. of just making it easier for everyone. I know people complain about EasyScape, but it's just like the littlest things that people will make a plugin for, because they saw a missing part of the game and they went, if I make this, that makes this one little bit of content that little bit easier,
But
and then share it.
it's not even just easy. It's actually just like what can feel better. Like it's not even just about making it easier. It's like what can make this game feel better. Like genuinely make it a more enjoyable experience.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. Yeah, I love the whole quality of life thing. I think even if it's an official thing or if it's a Runelight thing, just one little thing, just the game feels smoother. And yeah, I think it just, and I think that's one of the things that keeps me playing this game as well, is that it's constantly getting, more reclined. No, I don't want to say more reclined, but it just feels good.
Yeah, no,
I'm trying to think of the words.
Imagine,
you know what I
mean? Jumping over to the old vanilla client right now and trying to just play that. It'd just be horrible. I mean, I even forget just going on mobile. Like, oh yeah, I don't have bank tag layouts. This is awful. Like, I can't just.
I can't play mobile.
I can't either.
Reason.
It's just and even with the amount of plugins they've added to it, it's like there's still some essentials now that I've gotten fully used to.
I just find they're clunky to use, and they're not quite what Runelight has. And I'm like, nah, stop this.
Yeah,
I can just about chop trees on mobile. I've got some friends who play exclusively on mobile. One of them's done the fucking Inferno on mobile.
That is crazy. No, thank you.
No, stop it. You're making me look bad.
It's wild.
Yeah, well, it's mad to think that if we were back in the day now, and we were to say to our younger selves, oh, you see this little browser game that you're playing? Yeah, you'd be able to play this on a rectangle in your hands that doesn't require to be plugged into the wall. You'd be like, what? You know the little thing you play Snake on? Yeah, you can play RuneScape on that.
Dude.
Yeah.
I used to dream about that. It is crazy how far we've come. And it just is so normal now. Like, we've just fully normalized it. It's just whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Insane.
It's wild that the trajectory of technology and basically look at ChatGPT right now. Like, I use ChatGPT most days. And just for fun, like, I'll just talk to it. And I'm like, dude, I have completely desensitized myself to this now. I am literally talking to something that's smarter than a human, basically. Just whenever I want, there's no judgment, and I'm just chatting, just whatever I want to know. I can just learn something. Just unbelievable. If that had just popped out, it seemingly did pop out of nowhere in my life. It was just all of a sudden it was there. But if you were to have presented that to me 10 years ago, I'd have been like, this is magic. Like, what the fuck?
What UFO did this come off?
Seriously. I mean, it still blows my mind when I think about it, but it becomes more and more and more normal.
Yeah, and it's scary in a way, because then you look back at films like iRobot and you're like, oh shit, that ain't that far away now, is it?
Oh no, it's not, and everything's getting faster too. Yeah. I mean, I'm saying new things, it's just this. Everything's being sped up. It's just we're gonna get to a point where we're not gonna be able to even keep track of what's new, because so many new things are going to be coming out all the time.
It's just like when we get an update on this, only see about 10% of it.
Yeah.
It's the same as everything. Yeah, but if you compare to 5 years ago, the jump. If you were to look back 100 years and you look the jump from then to now, or if you were to look 100 years ago and 90 years ago, the jump from that to that, if you compare a 10-year period then and a 10-year period now, to just leap in everything is insane. Yeah. Just as a comparison of 2 decades. Mad. I feel like we're accelerating exponentially in technology, and it'll be interesting to see if there's a cap that we hit, whether that's technologically or legally as well, especially with AI. I can see that becoming something that becomes I don't want to say censored. Yeah. But it's even I know Google were trying to put up a I think it was a data center in Ireland, because I know
Mm.
they've got a lot of offices because they do all of the YouTube side in Europe, I believe, in Ireland for Google. And they were going to build I think they wanted to build like a data center for their AI, and there just isn't enough power in the whole of Ireland or something to put
What the
this
hell?
AI housing. They
What
just
the
can't
hell,
power it.
dude? Dude,
I was reading that the other day.
the thing that blows my mind is, and I don't know much about it at all, but just quantum computing. Like
Yeah,
as soon as like we have real quantum computing, like basically whoever controls that like controls the world at that point
yeah,
because
and
everything
they're also gonna
is
be really rich because like Bitcoin, they
yeah, like
just
every
crack Bitcoin in an afternoon.
that's so crazy. Like, dude,
Yeah,
our world's about to. I mean, it already is at the craziest point. I think in our lifetimes, at least how I see it as an American. But like, it's just gonna get crazier and crazier, which is exciting in a way, but it's also terrorizing. Like, it's just it's scary.
yeah. Like if you were to grab like a random person from like I don't know the 1800 and drop them
Yeah.
into
Oh
I don't know if
God.
you've seen that film about the what's it Seth Rogen where he sells pickles.
Oh no, I haven't seen
He
it.
like falls into like a river and freezes or something like that. And he was like a pickle seller or something like that. Either way, he's like in modern day, he's been unfrozen. And he's like, "What is all this?" He's walking around. He goes, "Why is it so expensive?" And he just pulls some pickles out of like a bin, use some rainwater, and he starts selling them. And someone's like, "Oh, these artisanal pickles or something." He goes, "No, it's just pickles in water." But it's like the difference in like him seeing the world as like some. Obviously, it's a film, but you
Yeah,
know
yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean.
No, it
Yeah.
would be absolutely crazy. There was some funny post of it was something similar to that, but I saw this Reddit post. It was like somebody at like a rave, or it was a video of
Yeah.
a rave, which is like strobe lights flashing and just all these crazy techno
Yeah.
colors and everything. And then it was just like imagine you threw somebody in from like the 1800s into this exact moment right now. Just I think you're in literal hell. You would have thought you just died and went to hell. Like what is going on? It's so disorienting. Yeah,
Start
funny.
freaking out. Yeah.
No, it's why. I mean, think about us traveling 100 years from now and entering the world. Like we
Oh,
would be shocked.
I'd say
It's
we'll be
either
in
a zombie
flying cars,
apocalypse,
but
basically, like we're living in the just post world basically, or it would be we've reached like technological maturity almost.
we're just you walk around the earth, no one's here because everyone's buggered off to like Mars or something
Oh my
like that.
god, that'd be crazy.
It's just a wasteland of nothing.
Oh, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's so much. Like I always get so fascinated in like these sort of topics of like how is the world gonna look in the next 100 years, and just it's just bizarre.
It's like if you have you seen Back to the Future?
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't that like set in like now time
No,
where they've all
that
got
was
flying cars and
the one that it was. So he like it was all based in like 1985, I think, and then the one where they went back in the past was 1955, and the one in the future was 2015.
that was
So
it.
we're
That was
already
it.
10
Yeah.
years beyond that. Like,
Where's my hoverboard
I know. The thing is, what's
and my
actually
lace
crazy.
up Nikes? Yeah.
We don't quite have the hoverboards, but it's actually bizarre seeing all these people with like these one wheel motorized things
Yeah,
going
yeah.
everywhere, and these little like people have some really cool looking things. I mean, they're not quite hoverboards again, but they're just fully motorized skateboards that are very
Yeah.
like easy to navigate and balance on. It's really cool how many, and they're all cheap too. These aren't things like really
Yeah, and you're
expensive.
not like thousands and thousands. They're
Yeah.
like a couple hundred. Yeah, which is crazy to think about as well. It's
You
like
know
that
what?
guy spending 40 odd grand on an iPhone. They're like 900 quid in a shop, mate. Just go and buy a new one. It's going to be way better.
It's so crazy. Well,
Yeah.
Smithy, this has been an awesome conversation. It's honestly been really nice getting to know you too. You're
Yeah, you too, man. Thank
like
you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
no, it's my pleasure. In fact, I was gonna say, I mean, you do just have that natural charisma that
Thank you. I appreciate
is
that.
so good for like a YouTuber. So I mean, I don't know, keep it up, man. I'm really looking forward to seeing how your channel grows, and especially, jumping into comics and everything. I hope that goes well as well. So I'm going to have your links down in the description. So right after this recording, I'll have you just basically throw in anything you want. So like, who knows, maybe if you even want to chuck your TikTok links in there, if people might
Yeah,
be interested in
sure.
that,
Yeah,
I'll
no,
throw them
thank you. I
down in there.
appreciate that.
Yeah. But yeah, this is absolutely great. It's cool having you on, and it's always nice meeting new creators. So thank you very much for your time today, man.
No, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it, and it's been nice having a chat.
It really has. All right, guys. Well, if you are still listening and you want to support the cast, there's a Patreon link and a YouTube membership link down in the description where you can access exclusive episodes. And that's it for me. So enjoy the rest of your day, guys, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.